At the time of recording, we are on the eve of one of the biggest shadow drops in history. Tomorrow, we are rumored to have the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remaster on our consoles, on our PCs. It should be released as of tomorrow. This is pretty unique actually, because for a lot of people, the only Elder Scrolls game they've really played that's modern is Skyrim. There's a lot of people who've never played Oblivion, never played Morrowind, and this is their first time to be able to properly experience, for me, what is my favorite Elder Scrolls game, and probably one of the games that got me into gaming. I mean, I was into games before, but it was more casual, more or less up until this game, but we'll get onto that. So we're just going to go through a few things. One, why I think this is going to shake up the industry a bit. Two, what's coming to the table, what they're bringing to the table, a bit of detail around what's been leaked so far, what we can expect. And then finally, what I want them to keep in, what I don't want them to change, what I want to be present in that game. To answer the actual question then, as to why I believe this is going to shake up the industry, is the way that it's being done. So a shadow drop usually doesn't leak this much, and I think this is probably, if this is a shadow drop, this is the worst shadow drop in the world. I don't know what it is, but they have marketed this, well, they haven't marketed it at all, hence it being a shadow drop, but the fact that it's leaked so much would suggest to me, and I've seen some theories out there that this is like a subtle stealth marketing approach where they're slowly leaking things to try and get you to get hyped about it without actually releasing it. So I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's hard to gauge where we're at with it. But essentially the reason why it's so big is because they're calling this a remaster when they're basically taking it out of one engine and putting it into a completely different engine. So this is something akin to Resident Evil 2. If you think the original Resident Evil 2 versus the Resident Evil 2 remake, that was putting it in the Reach for the Sky engine, the RE engine. Completely different engine from the one it was built in, and it makes for so much different vibes in a game. It completely changes how a game works, how a game operates. But I think they're going to make this an actual remaster in a weird way. What I think they're going to do is, I think they're going to leave all of the AI scripts, all of that sort of stuff. Everything is going to be left as is. So the physics, the AI, all of that stuff, I genuinely believe is going to get left as is. But what they're going to do instead, they're going to just completely overhaul the graphics. So I'll throw up some screenshots. It's a night and day difference. And I went back and recorded some gameplay footage for this video of the original game. And honestly, that it didn't age that well, I don't think, in terms of looks anyway. Obviously, the systems and everything are all great. But in terms of looks and the draw distances and all that sort of stuff on just vanilla Oblivion, it looks rough. It genuinely looks rough. So the thing is they can potentially change what a remaster is at this point. With this release being so big, if it does sell well, they can completely change the narrative on what a remaster is. They can make it so that, well, now changing it to 4K resolution and chucking on 60 frames per second no longer cuts it. There'll obviously be stuff like Night Dive, who slowly are remaking a lot of old games, and you can really see the difference in those ones. But I do believe that there is going to be a change up in what people will accept as a remaster if this game genuinely does come out and it's not just all vaporware and one massive troll from someone. Everyone's been asking for years for Bethesda to change their engine, to get rid of the creation engine, as good as a lot of the different systems, functionalities, their item permanence, all that sort of stuff that comes with a creation engine. People have been asking for an engine change for years. So to come to Unreal 5, which a lot of people do have problems with, it is a big change, but people have been asking for it for so long. I'm very intrigued as to how well the game's going to work and how true to the original it's going to be, whilst on a completely different engine, because you have no idea what the interactions are going to be like at all. It's also worth noting that we might actually get Morrowind as a remake. Hopefully. I mean, I've played Morrowind. I thought it was good. It wasn't great, but I thought it was good, and I would very much like to see a Morrowind remake, so maybe there's that. The other reason why this has such a big impact, and this is probably more for me personally, like a selfish reason, it messes up the release calendar so much. If you think about it, we have Claire Obscure is coming out at the end of this week, so I think it's like the 25th, 26th. So Claire Obscure is meant to be coming out the end of this week. And essentially, Clair Obscur is one of these huge RPGs that are going to take tens of hours. That's going to have to get pushed back if Oblivion comes out, so that's another potentially 100-hour game. Then you've got Clair Obscur, which is probably going to be a 50-60-hour game. Then you've got, on top of that, later down the line, only a couple of weeks' time, you've got Doom the Dark Ages. So the whole release schedule was fitting quite nicely. You know, for me personally anyway, it was fitting quite nicely. I had a bit of free time until the end of the week. Then we had Clair Obscur, and then we had probably like 2 weeks, maybe 3 until Doom the Dark Ages. That's out the window now. There's no hope at this point. We're just going to have to deal with the fact that there's so many RPGs to deal with. We're just going to have to live with it, I'm afraid. It's a good problem to have, especially with stuff being on Game Pass. It means that there's no cost, but you have tens of hours, hundreds of hours of gameplay. It's great, but there's just not enough time in the world to play them all. This is definitely the year of the RPG as well. I mean, you've had Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in February. You've recently had Baldur's Gate 3's final update. They've had their final update where they're done adding things to the game, but that's like a fully completed... It already was, but this is a fully completed game now. With all of the updates, you had Avowed, you've got Expedition 33 on the way, we've got Oblivion Remake. There's bound to be more RPGs that I'm not thinking of before the end of the year, but even we're not even at May yet. We're not even halfway through. We're not even in June. And we've had so many huge RPGs. There are quite a few people sort of saying, you know what, I'd just like a short single-player piece of gameplay. Some sort of game that doesn't take tens of hours, please. And a lot of people got that with South of Midnight, which I'm glad for. I mean, if you've seen my review, I wasn't a fan, but you'll know there's a lot of people out there who are just getting a bit sick of RPGs, but this is definitely the year of the RPG. It's insane how many huge games are coming out at the moment around the RPG genre. It's great to see it come back, but my days, is that a lot of game. So let's talk about what is actually coming to the table. What are they bringing to the table with this remaster? Obviously, there's a huge, massive graphical upgrade. Like I said before, they're on a brand new engine, so it could be completely different how physics interact. They've said, you know, they've improved the combat. They've mentioned the word Souls-like. I think that's a buzz term. I don't think for a second that they've made it Souls-like. I don't think it's going to be you stood there fighting a troll for 20 hours. It's not going to be like that. I genuinely don't. I think people have been slightly misled by the use of Souls-like, and people have been a bit too frivolous with its wording. I'll use that. But I don't think that there's any sort of worry about that. I think they've said they've improved the combat. I don't believe it's going to be Souls-like. I think what they mean is just stamina is going to be more important in your attacks. So chances are, if you try and block when you have no stamina, you're going to get staggered, which I believe was already the case. I'm 90% sure that was already the case. So it doesn't make a difference, does it? It's going to be the same game. It just means that the combat's going to be a bit less spongy, a bit less, you know, you would stand there hacking away for hours and hours and hours, especially as you got later in the game and the leveling system went skyrocketing, which I'll get to in a bit. You would just spend forever attacking an enemy, just hacking away, and its life bar wouldn't go down. Especially goblins, they were really tanky. Stamina's been overhauled, so you get knocked down less. I didn't think that this was such a big problem. There must have been feedback on it for it to be that, but I don't remember. I know that there's a combat move you can unlock that'll knock people down when they're low on stamina. I don't remember it happening so much to me, but I played this years ago in my teen years, like 20 years ago. I genuinely couldn't tell you if that was the case, but at least they've overhauled the stamina. Apparently, archery feels more modern. I have absolutely no idea what that means. I think it's because in Oblivion, if you shot an arrow, it was more or less straight. I think what they're trying to say is that they're adding like a drop-off, a bit like with pretty much any game that has bows now. So you're going to have to pull the bow a certain amount. You won't be able to just tap the trigger and it'll instantly fire a full power arrow. I think what it means is you'll have to hold it down for longer to draw the arrow, and it will have drop-off. Pretty standard stuff. I don't think that that's any sort of revolutionary mechanic that they've added, to be honest. They've also added a new HUD. Now, I like the original HUD, was fine with the original HUD, but I have nothing to say about a new HUD. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll look great. Now, for the things that I'd like to see in the game, there is quite a lot on this list. It could be that most of these appear on the game. First of all, the thing that I really want to emphasize is the no changes to quests. I don't want to change any quests whatsoever. By all means, fix technical stuff where people would get stuck or certain things wouldn't trigger. All that sort of stuff, perfectly fine with you changing that, but please don't change any of the other quests. The quests in Oblivion, I personally think, were far better than the quests in Skyrim. They weren't as deep, I don't think, in some cases, but the actual stories behind them, the variety, the lack of like fetch questy type stuff and the lack of, you know, kill these goblins type stuff. It does start that way, especially with stuff like the Fighters Guild. But the way that stuff like the Mages Guild works out, the Dark Brotherhood, the Thieves Guild, all of that, in my personal opinion anyway, even just the bog standard quests are way better than Skyrim. And the way that it goes in the end for pretty much every guild, even the Fighters Guild at the end, are really good. It's really impressive the way that the writing was here, and I do believe that it got dumbed down quite a bit for Skyrim. Better combat has to be, and I know that they've said that they're going to make the combat better, but they have to fix not only the combat, but the level scaling. So the way that the levels worked in Oblivion, you picked major skills, and when you leveled up those major skills, you would level up. You would eventually get the ability to level up. And if you leveled up outside of those skills, those major skills that you picked, you wouldn't level up at all. So you could level up lockpicking by like 50, and you would never level up. But then when you came to level up, you'd be able to pick stat improvements, and then you would go through and you'd have like a +5 to personality, a +5 to agility, all that sort of stuff. And that's governed by what you'd leveled up in the meantime while you were leveling up the major skills. So if you spent a lot of time fighting, you'd have loads of stat bonuses for strength, but not very much for anything else. But you could be a mage, and you just kind of stuck with strength increases. The reason why that's kind of sucked, because when you got leveled up, the enemies leveled up with you. So no matter what, you never really became this overpowered beast of a person that you could become, like in Skyrim, where you could sort of one-shot most things. In Oblivion, everything leveled up with you, so it reached a certain point where if you didn't manage your major skills properly, you could end up fighting enemies for a significant period of time. If you're like level 50, they had, 2,000 health points, and your sword could only do 100. So you'd literally have to sit there and swipe at them for genuinely a couple of minutes, which is a long time, while they're busy attacking you. And it was genuine. It broke the game, and a lot of people have complained about that. That's the one thing that they do need to fix, is the level scaling. I really hope they catch the essence of the sort of fairy tale-ness of the original game. So I've seen people mention this online as well, where the color palette is more realistic and less sort of floaty, airy. There's less bloom, there's less bright colors. I just really want them to catch the essence that this game originally had. The character creator, the absolutely unhinged character creator, it still needs to let you make abominations. I'm sorry, it has to let you make abominations. If you can't make twisted goblin men with bright pink hair, what are we even doing? It's 2025. Let me make my pink-haired goblin man who looks like Mr. Bean. I also don't want all of the jank removed. Like, you've seen the memes. Everyone's seen the memes. I think that the jank should always be present. They should never get rid of it. Please, 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 let me have a man fighting his own dog, people standing in lava and acting like it's completely normal, things flying across the room. When I pick something up off the table, I want it all to rise up off the table. I want to be able to jump on paintbrushes as if they're platforms. All of that stuff, I would like it. Yes, please, don't remove it. Also, don't streamline everything. I think Skyrim streamlined so much stuff, and they put the lockpick thing in and made it kind of like the lockpicking on Fallout. I don't want that. Give me the original lockpicking minigame. Give me the stupid speechcraft game with the wedges, with the people pulling the stupid faces. All of that, I want all of that left in. I would love to have the original experience, but with a new coat of paint. And for the love of all that is holy, keep the music. You've got to keep the music. The music is so iconic. The Oblivion NPC dialogue stuff, you've seen it on the memes again. You have to keep that in. You have to keep the music. The music is so iconic. I really, really hope they don't change the music. Last thing to mention, and I would be remiss not to, is the Skyblivion remake. So people have been making Oblivion or remaking Oblivion in the Skyrim engine. They have been doing so for years. And now they're really worried that their content everything that they've done for so long is going to get taken down because Bethesda's remade their own, and now they're going to say, right, well, this fan-made mod can't exist anymore. Get out. And I really hope they don't do that. I don't think they will. I think they're just going to let it be. They've been too good with the modding community, Creation Club aside, that I don't think they're going to come down with a hammer and say, like, right, okay, Skyblivion's got to go. I think both can exist. Chances are, I think Skyblivion will probably capture what I want personally more than what this remaster is going to get. Don't get me wrong, the look of the official remaster looks great, but I have a funny feeling that they're going to take out some of the charm, and Skyblivion still has the charm. So I think that that's where I personally are probably going to lean towards Skyblivion, but I don't even know if they're going to continue working on that. Chances are they will. They've spent so much time on it now. But I think it's worth shouting them out and sort of saying, if you haven't seen it, go and have a look at the project and support it if you can in any way, even if it's just sharing it on social media. I think they'd appreciate it, especially now when things are so uncertain around what's going to happen. It's just worth shouting out something so built by just passion and love for the game. And you don't really see that often anymore. So it's good to see, and I think you should definitely support it. And that'll do for today. I have tried to keep this as short as humanly possible after my Nintendo video ran on for so long. Hopefully you had a great time if you were watching. If you like what you see, I'm putting out reviews, deep dives, lists, more chatty videos like this one where I'm just talking about topics. I like to put out things probably around once a week. I love talking about games, so if you like what you saw, please like the video, subscribe, and yeah, look after each other. I'll catch you soon. Goodbye.